Roll call, please, but
Councilor Raymond here. Councilor Callum. Councilor Christopher.
Yeah.
Councilor Terry.
Yes.
Councilor Boyajin.
Yes.
Councilor Barone.
present.
Councilor Delvento.
Yes.
Vice President Boncory.
Here.
President Sampson.
Here.
Thank you.
We need a motion to accept the minutes of November 21st, 2017, as circulated.
Motion.
Motion been made. Second. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Christopher. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain.
Abstain from Council Boyajin. We have a few public hearings. One is public hearing for the town of Winthrop to maintain its uniform tax rate for all classes of fiscal year 18. I'll open the public hearing.
Good evening, Council.
Gentlemen, how are you?
Fine, how are you?
Good. This is a yearly event, an annual event with us.
It is,
Yeah.
but this is a special event
Yeah.
because this is the results of the revaluation of all the real and personal property in the town.
Okay, great.
In fact, we just 2 hours ago received final certification from the DOR, and that is basically 3 years of work in the making. We had a pretty lengthy list of DOR directives, and we addressed all of them and successfully achieved them. But the purpose of tonight's hearing is to vote on the minimum residential factor, as you know. But because of the reval, we had a long list, but I just want to, and I believe I gave all you folks a copy of the directives. The most significant was the 9-year cyclical reinspection program. We did that basically over the last 3 years, so we had a lot of work there. We updated the tax maps for the first time since 1988. That was a big undertaking. And we also, per the directives, introduced a new GIS mapping system. And it's really quite a system, and it's on the site, used all the time by the public, and we use it every day.
Could you give the public just a general idea what that does? Quick.
You can peruse, yeah, sure. You can put in, do a search. You can look at a subject property. You can look at a whole neighborhood, and you can see it through a bird's eye view. And you can basically go up and down different streets. It's almost like walking down the street. It's an excellent program. We have CAI, which we contracted with. But we also today, we just had a meeting in this room with another group who, there's been a grant, a federal grant for 10 communities, and for no cost to the town, we can participate in that grant, and we'll enhance our GIS system. So the town manager was here today, along with many others, someone from my office as well. So it's a great project, and it will only enhance the current system that we have.
Google Earth on steroids, kind of?
Yeah, it's great, it really is. I can't wait to get a good look at it myself. So the Board of Assessors, I think you all have a copy of the vote. They voted unanimously to recommend to the council that the uniform tax rate be adopted. And so that, you might have that in your package.
Yes.
Patrick Herring is here, and he has some results for the recent reval. And just as a note, with the new Municipal Modernization Act, now it had been every 3 years we'd have a reval. Now we're up to 2023. It goes to 5 years. But we do have to do interim year adjustments, but it's not as quite closely looked at as so with the new act, it'll be out 5 years.
Okay, great.
So,
Patrick.
Well, good evening, councilors, council president. My name is Patrick Herring. I'm a consultant that's been working for the town for many years. For the last 3 years, though, I've been working on this project of the data collection of the town to satisfy the program for revaluation. So in the last 3 years, we looked at approximately 4,000 parcels out there. So I'd like to thank the property owners of the town of Winthrop. The 3-year program of data collection has been completed, and it's going to now restart again. So Steve said this Modernization Act has changed the procedure slightly. It used to be a revaluation every 3 years. It'll now be every 5 years. So it's now a 10-year cycle. So within 10 years, we must look at every single property again. And this time around, it'll hopefully be done a little differently, looking at approximately 500 houses a year instead of jumbling them all up at the end of the reval. So your next, this is a revaluation year 2018. The next revaluation will be fiscal year 2023. It seems like a long way off, but that valuation will be for values for January 1st of 2022. These fiscal year 18 assessments, they're based on the sales from 2016. That's the market that we're looking at for a value for January 1st of this year, 2017. Do you want me to go over this? Or do you want-
Sure,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
Let me make
I
this
mean,
first.
this town is made up of mainly residential properties. The breakdown of the town is 90, where is it here, 97%, let's just go over, the single-family homes make up the most of the town. And the overall value of a single-family home in Winthrop has increased approximately 8.6% over last year's value. We do update the values on interim years, and last year was updated, but the market here is so robust that it is expanding at a very high rate, so 8.6% the value has risen. So that means the average single-family home increase from last year of $386,429 was the average value, is now $419,931. And like I said, that's about 8.6% above what it was last year. All the classes of residential properties have risen, including condominiums, 2 families, 3 families, apartment buildings. The commercial and industrial has risen, but at a lower rate. The permits for this year, we looked at approximately 450 houses that had a permit, and also personal property was also included into this total. Those lead to the growth for the community, meaning that this would allow the value for the levy to rise. And what we came up with for growth is $12,962,320 in value, which is about $186,787 in tax dollars. Forecasting forward now for next year, fiscal 19, I have been also reviewing the 2017 sales that will be used for next year's value. And it's apparent that the values are still increasing, and the overall building permit numbers will be increasing, possibly leading to a larger growth estimate for this next year. So that's it in a nutshell. One other thing, this is in the Warren Group, is a graph. What this graph mainly does is it's showing the median sales of the properties in Winthrop. And we knew that there was a bubble around 2005. If you had bought in that year, you would immediately have started losing equity in your value, because the crash of the real estate market happened at that point. The low was in around 2010 was the bottom. So Winthrop, although not as bad as some other communities, did have the crash and is now climbing out of it. So the median sale is higher than it was now. It has come back up and is higher than what the market was in 2005, which was the peak. So that's good.
That's good news. Now, the 8.6 valuation, the increase, how's that compared to the rest of the state, for instance?
Well, I would say it's it's average for the eastern part of the
Okay.
state. Central Mass
Not
is
just Winthrop, yeah.
still very
Yeah, very
stagnant,
nice,
and
yeah.
beyond there is not good.
Right, okay, great.
Also, I just wanted to thank the administration and the town council for your support. This is the end of my 3rd year. It's been a very active 3 years. As I said, it was a pretty lengthy list of directives, and without your support, we wouldn't have been able to, complete that and to be certified. As I say, we were final certification today, so I thank you.
Thank you and the board for all your hard work, we appreciate it. Anything from the council during this public hearing? Anything from the public? Yes, just if you stand and... Sure.
How are you all?
If you can identify yourself, just for the
Sure.
record, yeah.
So, hello everyone. I'm Jean Coughlin, resident, town of Winthrop, 23 Cottage Park Road, precinct 5. So, kind of not a surprise that we're back here again. Thank you for giving the opportunity to talk again.
Just so I can clarify,
Yep.
this isn't public comment yet.
Oh,
If
I'm
you're waiting for,
sorry.
this
I
is
thought it
just, this
was.
is just a public hearing for,
No, good to
certain,
hear.
and then we'll be calling you back.
Okay.
Okay,
No, good
great,
to hear.
thanks. Okay. Anything else regarding the uniform tax rate and the evaluation from the council or the public? If not, we'll close this hearing, and we'll go on to the next transfer of $498,101.20 from free cash to public to capital stabilization fund. Public hearing has been open. Anyone need or want to comment regarding the transfer of $498,000? Anyone from the council?
Mr. President,
Yes.
the Council Finance Committee met on this earlier and recommended positive action by the council.
Okay, great. That'll be coming up under old business, I believe. Anything else from the council or anything from the public during this public hearing? If not, we'll close the hearing. Next thing on the agenda under public hearings, we'll open with transfer of $373,575.90 from free cash to general stabilization fund. Public hearing is open. Anything from the council?
Mr. President,
Council?
I'm going to make the same statement again. The Council Finance Committee met on this earlier and recommended a positive action.
Okay, great. Anything from the public? Yes. Identify yourself, please.
Dawn Marion, precinct 3. What's all this free cash? Where's it coming from and why is it going into this fund?
Mr. President,
Yes,
I'll do a quick explanation.
please.
Free cash is after our tax rate's certified and our books are closed for the year. This is the balance in the checking account. You can't move money, the balance of the checking account from year to year. Every year is an individual bracket. So this is the money, and annually, you should try to finish the year with some money in the bank, so you don't spend anything. So free cash is not free, it's the worst name in the world for it. It's the balance of the 2017 fiscal year checking account. So that money needs to go somewhere. What this council has done is established a policy several years ago of taking 40% of the free cash to put into capital stabilization fund, so that the money is available for projects if we need it at future points in time, instead of just spending the money. If we need a roof, there is money in the bank to fix a roof. 30% goes into the general stabilization fund. If there's a hurricane, something happens, we have to pay extraordinary expenses.
So we just transferred, I'm sorry, I'm just looking up because I wanted to be short. We're in the
Hang on.
process of transferring 300 and, that's what I was looking up the amount right now. 373,000 change right now to the general stabilization
The
fund.
general stabilization account is our savings account
It's
for the town.
savings account for the town.
So
And
that
the capital stabilization fund
is
is.
for capital expenses. If the fire, I can't use the example, say
Like
a building fell down.
playground that might be in.
Listen, we're gonna keep, let's keep on
But-
target.
I'm just
Council,
trying to understand.
Yeah.
the difference
Capital-
and
between
you'll
the two
you'll
funds.
understand. Hold on.
Capital
Let
is an
him finish,
asset.
please.
If something you buy, if a heating unit on top of the school blew up and you had to replace it right away, that's where you draw the
So
money
is
from.
one say a
So it's
checking
capital.
and one a savings
None
of the town?
hang on, let me get through all of them, okay? The third is we put 10% into building stabilization, which is for expenses that you feel are going to occur. We need a roof on a school, we're gonna need new doors on the fire station. You know that's gonna happen at some point in time. It's in the capital plan, you can draw the money out of that. All these accounts have parameters set by the Department of Revenue. It requires 6 councilors to vote yes to draw the money out of this account for specific identified article of purchase or asset. So it's a savings account set up for different purposes if you should need it. We draw money out of it. We drew some money out of it a few months ago for, I believe, the police station stairs. They needed to be fixed right away. We draw money out of it for that. Now we're putting money back into that account. There'll be money there again if something else needs to happen. And that's what these accounts are for, and that's why we do this.
They're just
Thank you, Counsel.
a lot of various things. Okay,
All right.
thank you for the explanation.
Anyone else regarding the transfer of $373,000 from the public or the council side? If not, we'll close that public hearing. Next thing, which Counselor already touched on, transfer $99,137.15 from free cash to building stabilization fund. Public hearing is open?
Mr. President,
Yes.
the Council Finance Committee met on this and recommended a positive action.
Okay. Anything from the public? Okay, public hearing is closed. We'll go on now to public comment. I think we have someone that was leading the charge. That's okay.
And apologize for that, everyone.
Not a problem.
So once again, hello, everyone. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I'm Jean Coughlin, Precinct 5, 23 Cottage Park Road. So I have a little bit of a notes that I wrote down, and if you don't mind, I can...
That's okay. Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm here tonight, just as a concerned resident and taxpayer for over 30 years in Winthrop. I'm here to ask and hopefully get some clarification. Am I in the CBD, which is the Central Business District? And if so, why? Joe and Town Manager Delahanty were nice enough before the meeting to grab me and say they are trying for me and working on it and haven't forgotten me, right? So made me feel good about that. So this is a question that no one has been able or seemed to be able to answer. I'm the abutter on the intended condos or apartment complexes in the center and never received any notification of the CBD plans, changes, or inclusion in the zoning of the CBD. I've been doing a lot of research myself, and I've obtained a field card on my house from the assessor's office. And I noticed that from the looks of that, there's been no revisions on the zoning change on file with the assessor's office on my property. Okay. I also obtained a 2006 zoning map, which seems to be the most recent. I had some confusion there with the CBD map and that, but the zoning map from the town clerk's office, they were nice enough to give me. Denise, thank you. And it is colored in purple, the CBD on that. It looks like I'm not in it, okay, from that map. The new CBD map on the town website, dated April 4th, 2017, on our town website is outlined in hot pink lines, which run behind my house and through many other residences around the center. These lines, I think, are pretty ambiguous, and I would like to ask who drew them, how they've been adopted or approved, and if so, by who. I do not think that any residences should be in the CBD. It's going to really affect us, whether they go up 35 feet or 48 feet. And I can't even imagine that, living next door to that. So parking is another problem that we all face. It continues to be a main concern in many surrounding neighborhoods in our town, ours being one. I feel more consideration has been given to prospective developers than taxpaying residents and business owners in this zoning and planning of the CBD. I am appalled at the zoning ordinance offering developers, not residents, the opportunity to buy parking spots from the town for $2,000. This is laughable. A spot should be anywhere from $40,000 to $50,000 for a lifetime spot. Once again, I just think it's another example of protecting and encouraging developers and not protecting the residents. I ask that we have a public hearing or a forum or a neighborhood precinct 5 informational meeting, maybe with our newly elected councilman, Peter. I wish we had done more when Russ was with us, but in that capacity. But you know, I understand. But I want to put our neighborhood concerns and our quality of life information packet probably on the town website, as was requested last meeting, I think by Peter Christopher. And in closing, I ask that you just please communicate through this development process. We want to be a part of it, or I want to be a part of it for sure. And not communicating, I just feel causes confusion and lack of confidence in our elected officials, and that isn't an optimal feeling for me, or I don't think anyone else in this town. So communication is key, and all we're asking for is to keep us informed and be considerate of all of us. And I just want to thank everyone for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you.
I agree with everything. No communication with us.
Anything else from public comment? Yes.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, then go ahead, I'll go next. All right,
Mary
I'll
Alice.
see it up. Hi, everyone. My name is Mary Alice Sharkey, precinct 1. I was 2, now I'm 1. But anyway, Nikki Theotis had asked me to come tonight in relationship to what is going on for the development down the center. And I had said when Nikki had spoken to me, I said, Nikki, I have to tell you though, I am pro-development, but within reason. So what I'm going to say today is that understanding that we have very limited land in town, that we are forced to go upwards, all right? I also recognize that we are one of the densest populated towns in the Commonwealth, and also acknowledging that we have to generate more funding for our town and broaden our tax base. But also, I also believe that through this all, we need to do it in moderation, in thoughtfulness to the whole community, not just the impacted community, and with thoughtfulness and with respect. If you could be patient with me, I'm going to tell us a little bit of a story. So if you could be patient with me. My concern tonight, as I said, is about the whole community. My first time I came to Winthrop was actually 47 years ago. I had just turned 21, and I was going with Jack Sharkey. So he invited me up for a weekend in the summer, and the first place he took me, of course, was Winthrop Beach. And we sat on the wall, and I met his high school friends, Tony Fusillo, Billy McGillicuddy, Stevie Quinn. And what really amazed me, though, was to see people playing volleyball, wiffle ball, on the beach. I'm a Philly chick. I went to the beach in Atlantic City. Never would you see any kind of playing ball or anything on the beaches of Atlantic City, Wildwood, Asbury Park, or Seaside. It was forbidden. Also, many of the beaches you had to pay to get on the beach. So for me, I'm going, wow, this is quite a community. And though I hadn't been asked to be married yet, I said, well, if he does, this is a good place to start my family. Anyway, when Jack finally did ask the question, we moved here, and our first home was in Nikki Theotis' parents' home on Somerset Ave on the 3rd floor. And as a good Irish chick, I got pregnant right away, and Mr. and Mrs. Theotis heard. Mrs. Theotis had to make sure I ate healthy. And when she ever heard I don't eat vegetables, she goes, oh, yes, you will. I will teach you good vegetables, Greek green beans. To this day, I eat her green beans, the best in the land. She also taught me that the importance of community in her house. All of the Greek families, the Theotis house is the hub on the top of Somerset, and everybody came to the Theotis house. My shock was, I used to go down a metal staircase in the back of their home, and looking in the backyard, and I'm seeing on a spit an entire lamb being rotated in the back. And Mr. Theotis goes, Mary Alice, you will come and eat nice lamb. I still don't eat lamb today, but I did eat a little bit that day. But my whole point is to say is that we are a real sense of community. I'm laughing about it, but we are who we are in this town because of who all of us, I see the thing. I see Russ Sanford, a president of our council, lived on Somerset at one time. I think that was your first home, Russ, was it? Or
Second
one of your
one.
first
Yeah.
homes? And then he brought additional property on Somerset Ave. and he raised his family here, and he started a business here, and he's a very successful businessman. Not just because he came to Winthrop and helped to help him grow, but it helped us to grow as well. And I see Jimmy Lettieri and the whole bunch of us who came here. But we also still have to respect each other and talk to each other. And I'm just asking for there to become a planner that could come in town, that give us good, solid foundation of what is needed, but most of all, to ask for everyone to communicate with each other and to respect. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Any other public comment?
No, Donna Sigrid.
Donna Riley. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. You know what? If you don't mind, Donna, if you don't mind, yes, right over here. You were up first. Donna, you're on deck.
Yeah, hello everyone. I like Ms. Copeland who's jotted down my thoughts too, because I am very passionate about them and I just want to make sure that I cover each of them. So my name is Anna Bakos. I am on Bartlett Road from Precinct 5. My mother's right over there, Christine Bakos. You probably all know her, the white-haired lady there. But good evening, council members. I want to thank you for being a town council, first and foremost, and for all the work that you have done for this town in the past and present. I know it's surely been a busy time, and we are all here as evidence of that. But that being said, I feel that I must voice these concerns that are on these 4 pages right here, so please bear with me. I stand before you tonight as a simple town resident, born and raised here, but who's also part of a growing group of concerned citizens who feel and believe that the course, process, and methods employed by this council and those involved in the Center Business District is beginning to resemble a steamroller in contrast to one that should be more fully considered, take into account and address the needs of the larger community who are at the very least your constituents. The David and Goliath metaphor seems like a suitable reference here. Yet, it's my belief and my hope that it's not too late to moderate your focus, to slow down, to reconsider various elements of the plan, and turn the situation around for the betterment of all the members of our community, and not a select few who stand to profit greatly at taxpayer expense. Part of respecting someone is having trust in them. My instincts are telling me that the trust we have placed in you as our town leaders has been abused, misguided, and/or misplaced as a result of the work and methodology employed in your consideration of this project. At this point, I consider you to be in a place where you need to earn back my trust and those of my fellow friends here, and the respect of us. By way of example, as I viewed at a recent WCAT airing of the recent town council elections, and during the recent meeting, it was stated that the town representatives, and I quote, came up with a good and proper plan that works for the town and the people of Winthrop. This characterization may reflect how you as a council or as individual members of the council feel or perceive the matter, but I, and more people each day, respectfully disagree. A good and proper plan related to the CBD would have included not only the input of the residents and business owners of the center area, but it demonstrated an obvious effort to actually address, insert, and implement into the plan proof of those same thoughts, concerns, and expectations which have been conveyed directly and indirectly to this council, the past council, and at various other parts of these processes we heard and addressed. It would have taken our concerns, we, the ones who live here, pay taxes here, call this home, and who continue to experience the daily frustrations that this plan was ostensibly designed to alleviate and correct. Our concerns and goals are simple: to maintain and improve our quality of life, to ease the parking challenges we face, resident safety, and concerns over the long-term effect of the rezoning that is being considered. Why should we have to consult with or hire lawyers to protect us and get you to fully consider our input and insights when we elected you to do that? My father's family settled in Winthrop in the 1920s. My dad was born and raised here in Winthrop since 1923. He used his meager military wages to save enough money to buy the home that he bought for his family in 1947 when he returned home a war hero from World War II. The same home that my mother and I continue to live in, and the same home that he and my mother raised our family. I'm confident that he would be proud that I am employing his memory and name in furtherance of my goal to convince you to more thoughtfully consider the impact of many aspects of this plan and how it so adversely affects so many of our fellow citizens and residents, your fellow citizens and residents who don't feel as though they have a voice. I cast my statement to you tonight from a personal perspective because it is personal, and I ask you to keep that in mind as you move forward. Our home and the homes of others are severely impacted by your decisions, as well what happens to them in this plan, now and in the future, and it is personal, not just business. It's commonly said that home ownership is the single most significant element of the proverbial American dream. That is what you're tinkering with in a way that does not give us, as your community, confidence. Specifically, I and others you will hear from and have heard from have several immediate concerns summarized as follows, but by no means an exhaustive list. We have, and for years, have had parking problems and difficulties in Winthrop. The proposed changes to our community as reflected in the plan do nothing more than exacerbate these problems and difficulties. Point in fact, as it was mentioned earlier, the proposed new building and the reduced requirement of 2 parking spots per unit to 0.7 per unit, or being allowed to buy a lifetime spot for $2,000. If it were me, I would choose neither. I don't accept this. I submit that no rational person would accept it, and further that no rational elected official would expect its constituents to do so. When this issue recently arose at another meeting, because we've been to a few, another committee member of this multi-tentacle project advised us that we, the lifelong residents, and many elderly at that, of our beloved community could easily park a mile or even a quarter of a mile away and walk to where we live or would like to shop, because it would be, and believe me, I'm not embellishing here, better for us. That's absolutely absurd, especially with the difficulties that we'll undergo during the construction of this project. And with all the various rain, ice, snow, and other of Winthrop's notorious weather conditions, if we are made to park further away from our residents, that is certainly not looking out for our safety or well-being or for our finances. The taxes we have paid and continue to pay certainly should be enough to be granted the right to park where we live. How can you authorize the construction of more and larger buildings, which the proposal is surely designed to attract, and put more people in town when we don't have the parking, roads, or infrastructure to support this? There are, of course, public safety concerns that are collateral to this. As you, like I, have heard for a long time now, and especially at recent meetings, our fire department struggles to keep itself functional and capable of adhering to minimally acceptable standards. We have not even been able to update or support the firehouse or provide another to house the firefighters and support their needs. Yet you want to build more and add to the town population to generate revenue? This does not make sense. I have yet to hear a proposal from you about resolving that problem. And I question the validity of creating a greater burden on our fire department, its firefighters, our other town departments, and the taxpayers. I fear for the safety of our town and the townspeople, as well as the ability of the town to keep up with the effect of the increase in its departments and resources. We all agree that the existing buildings and walkways and roadways in and around the center are in need of refurbishing. That's a given. They've been allowed to become rundown. The repair of all this infrastructure and the unexpected and unanticipated costs that always arise have not, to my satisfaction, been fully vetted or examined. And once it's built, who pays for it and how? And who's going to repair, restore, and or improve all of the existing structures? And what are they getting in return? Because we all know that no one does anything for nothing in this arena. Winthrop is a town we cherish and in which we choose to live. The majority of us grew up here and love and appreciate the gem that it is. Please let's preserve that and enhance what we have. Let's not feed it to the wolves or sell it to the highest bidder for a few dollars that in the end is going to go away. And then what are we going to be left with? More vacant buildings, a bunch of newer buildings that will ultimately fall apart around us because of lack of maintenance, because of poor planning and the hope of a quick buck. Greater issues which we cannot handle, renters who might come in and maybe don't even have the vested interest in our town. Please, at this time of year, as we celebrate the season of Thanksgiving, thankfulness and giving, I implore you to look at what and who is in front of you and ask that you listen to us and meet our requests and proposals as they arise. I ask that you be accountable to this and the other projects that will naturally spin off of the one before you. I ask that you be more transparent, open, and above board with us as this proceeds to the next in various stages to the extent that it does. You have the power to right this process that has gone totally awry and left so many of your fellow constituents and fellow citizens feeling ignored, inconsequential, and helpless to do anything about it. Let's please work together to make this a project that we can all be proud of. Please make us proud, Winthropites. I'd like nothing more than to look back on all of this one day and say, gosh, my dad would have loved this. In closing, I thank you for your time and for hearing me.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Donna? Riley?
Donna Segretti Riley, precinct 3. I live at 30 Cottage Park Road. And,
Five. Yeah. Precinct 5. Yeah.
Precinct 5. I moved once.
I remember that.
Right. Precinct 5, thank you. Actually, this reflects a letter that I already wrote to the planning board because at the
Please,
time,
if we can, John.
because at the time, I didn't know who to write to, but I wrote to the planning board on October 23rd. And I did speak at a landscaping meeting sometime in October with the same concern. At the risk of being redundant, which I hope I'm not, I just want to throw some figures in here. Mary Alice already alluded to the fact that we are a dense community. I think we're second densest in Massachusetts to Somerville, with 17,500 people on 1.7 square miles. So, given that density issue for the entire town as a whole, I think what I'm just asking for here is some effort to be aware and sensitive to not just the residents of the center and the town as a whole, but the business people who already exist here too, who need to worry about how their deliveries are going to be made and all of that. But basically, I just want to point out on Somerset Ave, some particulars. Santa couldn't come down on a fire truck at the end of Somerset Ave because of the negotiation of the bend at the end of Somerset, which is very, very dense as it is. And this would be a proposed area of construction of apartments, condos, whatever, at the end of Somerset and Cottage Park Road. But the second thing is Cottage Park Road on the center end, not the water end, is rather unique in that we are all two-family houses with the exception of two smaller houses at the end of the street. And doing an estimation and count, I found that you have about 3 to 5 cars per house, that need to find a space to park. So many times by the end of the street, at the end of the night, you may end up down, hopefully within 10 feet of the fire hydrant. And we try to keep that.
Some of the chief to check
So,
over those guys.
so, at any rate, but we find, and it's not that bad for me, I'm not complaining really, but I'm just thinking, if you have more residents in this rezoning situation, where are you gonna put them? I mean, that's just one of my concerns, that's all. So just closing, just to be a little aware and sensitive to not just the residents, but the businesses who already exist. And I just had one question, and I'm not sure if in this arena we can ask it, but I understand we have a new town planner who is coming or hired, whatever, and we afforded that through the budget. Do you know when that might happen, when they might?
It's happening very quickly. In fact, we've hired, I'm going to let the...
Our first meeting is tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning, yeah.
With the Inspectional Service Division, myself, Joe D, and Steve Calla had a duplicate meeting, but we'll catch them up afterwards. But that's the kickoff meeting to try to start a process and design of how this is going to operate how we can move these conversations forward, to review some ordinances that currently exist, and also have a plan in place for anyone who does want to develop, that they get a packet that's publicly available to all the residents as well, on what steps they need, including a pre-application meeting, so they know all the ordinances up front.
Yeah,
And everyone in town will be able to see that and view that as well.
okay.
And that's not saying that there won't be recommendations coming from the planner or the planning board or the council itself after tonight to refocus my direction.
Yeah, because I agree with the people who had spoken prior that leaving us out of that communication relative to this rezoning was, not the best move. But I'm done here, and I thank you so much for affording me the time to speak.
Thank you, Donna. Don Manning?
John Manning, Precinct 3. So, back in September, I filed for playground reports, the last 3 years of playground reports. And I didn't get around to reading it till last week. The town had an official inspection report of all the playgrounds in the town on March 16th of 2016. The only one I really care to discuss right now is the Arthur T. Cummings playground. It is rated a hazard 1. A hazard 1 means loss of life, permanent disability, or body part. I Facebooked it. It went around like wildfire. I know that today the inspector, I believe, that did this report was down there with some school officials, because that was sent home in a letter to all the parents by the principal, and one of the parents forwarded it to me. So I believe the inspector and whoever for the town should be in charge of looking at that stuff, I guess, was gonna be there. The whole surface there is rated a hazard 1, not to mention some of the equipment. The surface is gonna be at least $100,000, at least. The swings are all raised, are all a hazard 1, and those are simple fixes. Those are repairing all, like, the chains and the hardware. I mean, $30, $40 worth of hardware. This was in March of 2016. Why did it get me getting on Facebook and doing it this week? So it's been how long? How many kids were hurt there on a hazard 1 playground that we have in our school? That's, I don't know, what, 15 years old, 14 years old? And whose job is it, okay? Because we're gonna go back to, it's the school department. And then the school's gonna say, well, it's a town playground. Well, guess what? I thought a few years ago, we decided we were one, we were school and town. And when I was there Sunday, walking around, there was families there playing, and it took all of me to not scream, get off that equipment, get off this playground, because if you get hurt, it's going to be serious. It's not gonna be a simple cut, it's gonna be a laceration, that's gonna be stitches. It's not gonna be a simple break, it's gonna be a compound fracture. It's not gonna be a knock on the head, it's gonna be a concussion or worse. So, is it town money? Because, thank you for that description, because I know that the town has some. And we know that the new superintendent, she just got hired, so she just probably became aware of this, from what I understand. So this is going back a year and a half, over a year and a half. Who dropped the ball on this? Who's gonna be accountable for this, okay? Because we have hired people for buildings and grounds on the town side and the school side, and somebody's not doing their job, because there's 600 kids at that school that are in danger every day, just because of the surface alone, not to mention all the pictures of the equipment. Now, in the letter that Mr. Harity sent home yesterday to the parents, they were replacing a slide. Well, guess what? When I go through this, there's only one slide on here that has a little incident on it, and at that time it's rated 2, which means temporary disability, okay? The slide that I Facebooked is not even in here. And I hope they replace that slide, because I'm sure that the inspector that came down to walk around is going, or probably gonna look at the playground, because there's so much more now damage than that was there a year and a half ago. So I don't even really know what to say when I look at this, except I really implore you to look at this immediately from both the town and the school side, because I know the school has, I know they were there, and it went out in a letter. But I implore you from the town side too, because there are people there on weekends. It's not just a school playground, it's a town playground as well. And when somebody gets seriously hurt, it's not gonna matter whose kid it is, because they're gonna be hurt. So please, 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 make this an important priority. It's a safety factor. Hazard 1, loss of life, permanent disability, or loss of a limb. Don't let it happen to somebody's kid for us to have a fundraiser for somebody's family, for it to become a priority. Please don't let it happen. It's about the kids, okay? It's about the kids.
Thank you, Ms. Manning, appreciate it.
Set the record straight.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
the person who did the inspections was not on premise today. She'll be in my office the 14th, next week, with the Parks and Rec Director, the Superintendent of Schools. It is school-owned property. We work together with the Superintendent office and the Town Manager's office to achieve safety. We spent over $500,000 in the schools as a police chief on earmark money to make it safer. Our commitment is to continue to make things safer. I was hired, after that report. I was not aware of that report until about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So we'll move on these concerns. Ingleside Park, we already looked at and tried to see what was in the Ingleside Park funds to make some repairs down there. So we'll continue, because what happens, we have one insurance carrier, so it really doesn't matter who is responsible. Our insurance premiums will go up as we have more claims. We don't want that. We certainly want to work with the schools and achieve. The level 1 safety issue is about an inch or 2-inch gap that someone could trip on coming out of the playground area onto cement itself. So those seem to be like maybe a quick, simple fix is remove the timbers, so there's no lift that people can trip over. So we'll meet with the safety people, the DPW director, the Parks and Recs, the superintendent, and come up with a plan that we can achieve. And if that needs funding, the superintendent, Howard, will submit a request to the school committee, who will then submit the request over here if they don't have extraordinary maintenance money that could fix that.
Okay, thank you. Any other public, yes?
If everyone's done, I just wanted to say really quickly, I appreciate everybody's comments, and I've spoken with a lot of you about the center development issues that you've had. I've been working with Mr. Ciotis. I want to work out a day where we can have a community meeting, a precinct meeting, to talk about a lot of the issues and the strategy moving forward about different things that have been brought up here tonight. If anything is daunting, you guys can always speak with me if it's something that's immediate. But I just wanted to let everybody know that I am working on that, and I want to get everybody in the same room to talk about these issues in an appropriate forum.
Thank you, Counselor. Council President Riley?
Hi, John Riley, I live at 30 Cottage Park Road. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the differences between what's going to be allowable in the center business district versus what's allowable anywhere else in the town. If you're looking at it as somebody lives 2 blocks away from a store that has a storefront, it says it's going to put 20 units of residential units and 10,000 square feet of floor space. The lot's only 1/3 of an acre. I don't see how that's possible, but that's what they're advertising. That's what the people in the neighborhood are seeing, and that's part of why the reason for the alarm. I took the time to look through the zoning law, and I found a couple of sections which I wanted to go over. In the beginning of the chapter that talks about special conditions for the center business district, it says it's the intent of this subsection to encourage the development in appropriate locations of attraction, functional low-density multifamily and attached dwellings which respond to the social and economic characteristics and the need of the present and future Winthrop population. I got the wrong site. That's in the section that zones for multi-unit things across the town. But the purpose of in the center itself, the purpose of this chapter is to promote development in the town of Winthrop by encouraging the redevelopment, reuse, and renovation of properties in a manner compatible with the community character. The design standards further along in that same section. The planning board shall ensure that the following criteria are met during the site plan and review. The design standards are intended to promote quality development, emphasizing the center business district's pedestrian scale development pattern and the desire for future development that is in harmony with the existing scale and massing in the district. The district isn't 4 stories and as many apartments as you can squeeze into the building. The approval, the site plan and design approval should be granted upon determination of the planning board that the plan meets the following objection. One of those says that the building design is compatible in scale and materials with the existing downtown. So I read all of these things, but then I look at the difference between what's allowable in the center business district and what the restrictions are or what the zoning requirements are in the rest of the town. And it's far in excess of what's available in other places. The center business district has nothing that talks about how many units per square foot of the lot you can imply. In the other parts of the town, for a multi-unit, I think I mentioned at the last meeting, it's anywhere from 1 unit for every 1,800 square feet of the lot for the special development districts, which have to be voted on by a special project. It made a strict criteria. 2,000 for high-rise apartments and 2,500 square feet. There's nothing for the center business district. So what do I suggest should happen? I think the first thing that you should do is take a look at the zoning map and redraw it and take out any residential property that exists in there. Nothing is unfair. The way the zoning law is set up, there are restrictions on property that abuts the residential district. So if Gene's house stays in, we don't know whether it's in there or not yet, but let's say for the sake of argument that Gene's house was included in the center business district, and the developer next door wants to build, the requirement for setbacks, the requirements for height limitations don't apply because that property doesn't abut the residential zone district. And I don't know if any people are in there. It says on Bartlett Road may also have the same kind of a problem. So take a look at it and see if there are any places, and take them out of that district. I'd say put a moratorium on a stop on any construction down there until we can develop some meaningful dialogue between the business owners and the residents. Part of that, I think, ought to be to lower the height allowance and limit the residential things. Take a look at what's allowable in the rest of the town. If I lived down the beach or I lived at the Highlands and I was that close to a residential district, none of these things would be likely to occur. They'll occur because I live down the center, or we live down the center. And I think you have to adopt a realistic parking requirement. Right now, it's 0.7 for every unit. I don't think that's adequate. And then repeal that $2,000 buyback for the parking spaces. I just don't think I think if we start a process of working together to take a look at it, a lot of what's in there is very favorable. It talks about flexibility, it talks about developing the center. If you only read the center business district, you think we're going to do a great job and everybody would love what happens down there. That language is very favorable. It talks about making things be in conformity with the rest of the neighborhood and so forth. That language is excellent, I think. But when you take a look at the differences, when you go to the chart of what's allowable and you say, okay, everywhere else in town we put this and this limit. Here we don't have any of it. I think it's too excessive. I think it's correctable, and I think we can come up with something that works very well for everybody concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Phyllis in the back. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Phyllis Hadley, I live on Somerset Ave. And I was wondering if the document that we presented at the last town meeting solicits any feedback from you? Does anyone have any glowing remarks or disparaging remarks or anything at all? What did you think of it, since it was a survey done with a lot of the people in this room?
I'll speak to that first of all. You know, it was always the intention and the hope, and obviously we missed our mark to have the neighborhood involved in this project. We hear you loud and clear. We do. I think going forward, as you know, the planner's on board now and will be for the foreseeable future. The planning board is aware of your concerns. The building department is aware of your concerns. We've heard from the businesses in and around Precinct 5 or the center area. I think we're all, and I'm not going to be here next year, but I think I can speak for the council, we're all going to take a hard look at some of the things that we thought we were doing, maybe to try to encourage development. Maybe we missed our mark, but we are hearing, I can speak for me, and I think I'll speak for some of the council, not all, but we are hearing you, and there is going to be a process going forward that, as Council President, past President Riley said, that we can work together and try to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish without losing the integrity and the character of our town. We hear you loud and clear, and I think this council and the new council-elect will work hard for you and with you to try to accomplish those things. That's my point of view. So we did read your document, we did hear your voice, as well as all of, and I'm not saying this because I'm looking for re-election because I'm all done, but I think it's a fact. So hang in there and pay attention. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that someone mentioned, I'm not positive, but that document would be put on the website, but for the life of me, I couldn't find it.
I can't speak to that, but we can.
I didn't have it in my notes, that's certainly
Yeah.
the council's
Phyllis,
prerogative, but the town website's usually for reports that I submit to the council and
Right.
information of that nature. We could put it under the CBD if the council so chooses.
Can you submit that maybe to your precinct counselor?
I
Peter? And he'll request, and then
I have it.
we can go through the proper channels to get it on board for you. Okay, if that,
Peter had requested that be put on.
okay, then we will make follow-up on it, okay?
And
And
then
Peter will
so-
chase us if we don't, so.
I
Yes,
only have one more thing, and I know that private property has certain privileges, but a lot of what started the unrest is those stupid signs that no one has submitted a plan for, that says the 20-plus retail, and then the evangelical church has 14 condos or 14 apartments. So even though it's private property and it's dilapidated and it's fallen apart and trash is all around it, can't the town do something to say, all right, take those signs down or clean up the trash around the building? I know it's private property, but
Somebody owns it.
somebody, yeah, I mean, can't the town enforce some type of mandate that they at least, I'm not saying repoint the bricks, but clean up the trash and take down the signs that are causing so much unrest? Especially because no plans have been submitted, right?
none to my knowledge, to date, as far as, right.
The signs are a more difficult problem. They're on the inside of their building. They're entitled to freedom of speech and certainly certain protections. The litter on the outside is another issue that could be handled by inspectional services. You know, so we certainly can look at those. You know, once we do declare a building inhabitable or a nuisance to the neighborhood, that if they refuse to take it down, the towns, well, at that point, might be forced to take the building down. So we certainly want to work with the owners to gain compliance, and we also want to work, you know, with the neighborhoods and the owners to come to a happy medium, so everyone's happy, and that, you know, first look should be at these zoning laws, and then the second look at is, okay, what do they want to do and how do we work together as a community to make it a better spot down there, to make it a beautiful piece of property instead of an eyesore. So I think we certainly will work towards that. I'll bring it up in tomorrow morning's meeting with the inspectional service team and get them to look at those properties, but also keep in mind that the community will need input from them as we move forward with some of these zoning changes. And I've heard from a lot of my employees over the last 2 weeks, and they feel that were not represented here at the last meeting, and I think I have to voice some of their concerns that we did advertise meetings, and we did have public hearings, and we did put in a transcript, and we're starting to compile that data. And we got to look at how we communicated, make sure everyone understands the way we communicated. And I'm not saying it's perfect, but I'm saying that we did certainly obey all the laws and all the council regulations on advertisement of those meetings, but also look at how we can do it better if there's a way to do it better. So certainly I think the employees feel that they did post all those meetings correctly, and they have a bite in this action too, and certainly they do a good job on a day-to-day operation, and we ask them to do a lot with a little sometimes, and we should appreciate that. But we'll take a look at that, and I'll have a report for the council, working with Denise and my intern on exactly how everything was advertised and posted. And then we'll look at the zoning, as Mr. Riley has pointed out, and certainly what recommendations that might come back to the planning board and towards the council to adopt and modify.
Yeah, thank you. Frank?
Frank Costantino, Precinct 2. Seems to me, town councilors, town manager, and development office, that what's happening is that from the comments that I hear about the residential issues down the center, in light of the development plans and the French Square redevelopment, that some of the development plans seem to be putting the cart before the horse. I think part of the problem that the town has faced is that they really have not had a city planner to get an overview on how the town should develop and by what means, dealing with the issues of the demographic, the density, the automobiles. And now we have a developer, and we have the town council or the town wanting to chase that golden egg for whatever revenues they might realize from development ideas. The developers are always going to have ideas to make money, and they want to go in and do whatever they've done, anywhere in the town. And they always found, as I've found over the years, through Board of Appeals and through variations and variances and what have you, that developers have been able to do a lot of things that shouldn't otherwise be allowed. But that's in the past. But I think moving forward for such a large area and such a critical area of the town that we're looking to have improved so that we can attract new businesses, that we can attract a healthy mix of residents and different age groups, different demographics, that the town really needs to think about these questions. What really is the character of the town? We're talking a lot of intangibles that a city planner or designer would have some skills and understanding on how to address and how to frame the guidelines or criteria that would enable you to develop an area in a proper way to meet the requirements that Tom Riley has pointed out as far as the planning board and zoning guidelines are concerned. So I think I would suggest that the town council in the town manager's office and any other planning initiatives that they proceed with a little more caution, a little more discretion, a little more time to really plan this out. Because once the changes are made, as was mentioned by Mrs. Bakos, that Ms. Bakos, I'm sorry, that it's going to be there for a long, long time. And at this stage, where we are so dense, making a big mistake like that, could end up, it could be the playground of the developers. It was mentioned behind the coming school. Okay, we're going to fall and trip. We're going to have a big problem on our hands. So I think with the city planners, take the time to look at this more carefully and think of all the contingencies that have to be taken into account, and not have the cart, move the town council's horse.
Thank you, Frank.
Jim Murray, Precinct 6. How you doing, everyone? Thank you for having us again. First, I'd like to commend the new administration, Chief. We've gotten more communication from this gentleman's team than we did, period. And that's years. Now, I hear a lot, I've reread these reports. We're doing what's in those master plans. And when you read those master plans over and over again, as Mr. Riley said, and this gentleman here said, they're written by developers, for developers, to make you think you are going to get everything that you possibly could want, revenue-wise. It paints the best picture possible. Why wouldn't it? They're not coming in and write a lousy report that says you really shouldn't do this. It won't be good for you. It'll overtax your infrastructure. It'll put more kids in your school. Why would they ever say that? That's not what they're there to write. They're there to write how it's gonna be great, how everything's gonna be awesome. You're gonna get all this revenue. They never remind you of the other side of the equation, all the expense. Nothing's free. Nothing. Not even free is free. It's just not. Now, when I was here last time, I gave everyone a copy of
Right.
the Globe.
Yeah.
Hopefully you had a chance to take a peek at it. They're already past where we are now. They probably wish if they could come and talk to us, they would say, be careful of lowering all your standards to get development. Be careful what you wish for, because 5 years later, they're in a tough spot, because you can't materialize parking. Once you build these buildings, or if somebody builds these buildings, and you do half a parking spot, and you allow people to buy parking spots in perpetuity, you're stuck. So in the master plan, there's a spot there that says, what would you, in the visioning, I saw three meetings, visioning. So I read how many people were at those ones. This is right out of the master plan. The first meeting had 35 to 45 people. Second meeting, 45 to 50. And then the final report was 35 to 45 people. Now, I'll take the town council, I had 9, a couple of people on the thing, 10 people on the economic development committee. You're talking at max 75, 85 people that had real input into this whole master plan. You want to change the entire scope of this center in the heart of the town on the backs of 85 people who have well-meaning intentions, don't get me wrong. And they worked really hard, and they had meetings for 2 years, and they were all posted. I have no doubt everything was posted. But if you had gone around and said, we want to change the whole center, we want to make it look like X, more people would have responded as they are now. But we didn't do that. And I know that we had a lot of officials, not necessarily you gentlemen and ladies, say that they talked to the businesses, we went around, this is input from the businesses, and you already know that that's just not true. It's not true. Some businesses were consulted, absolutely, but if you only had 75 to 85 people attend these meetings over a 1.5 year period, it's just not possible that you had all the businesses in the loop. So, what I would like to ask, and kind of echoing everyone here, is to look at what we're doing, reevaluate it in light of some of the concerns, because after all, we keep hearing this is for business, which we have a hard time understanding how wrecking the center is going to help our businesses. It may help someone 4 or 5 years from now. And I keep hearing in the reports retail, and I wish I had caught the person who wrote retail and told them about Amazon. Because they could have deleted that from the report, because it doesn't look so good now. I don't think there'll be retail in 4 or 5 years, never mind. You think you're gonna build buildings out there retail. That's crazy. But please, I commend you. I can't believe the amount of work you guys and girls put into this. This is unbelievable. I just come to them and talk. You guys do a lot of work. I commend you all. It's not an easy job. Then you're gonna listen to people like me. But we know you have the best interests of the town at heart. Not every plan is what it seems to be. Please just take a second look, take all of our concerns in, and really reevaluate it, and see if the money really adds up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim.
Nick Siotis, Precinct 5. First of all, I'd like to thank Council Christopher for proposing that presentation by the residents you given to Mr. Delahanty there, and that was proposed. It's in the minutes, and it should have been up on the website by now. They said they were going to put it on. You can check the minutes on that. Second of all, I'm here because I want to try to speak the truth, and I think there were mistakes made. We're humans, we made mistakes. And I think the mistake goes back to 2014, when the original ordinances were changed. There was no neighborhood impact. There was no input by the businesses. Those changes were made
And I truly believe that it was not representative of the center residents or the entire town. And that's where all this lies. So I'd like to just read a brief statement here, and maybe I might wind up a little comedy. Reviewing the CBD map on page 14 of the Center Business District Master Plan, March 2017, I discovered that a number of residences are included in the CBD that up until now, a center resident would not have considered possible. Just within the area bordered by Somerset and Woodside, there are 11 private residences in the CBD. In addition, during the last committee meeting in November, one of the owners of the residence now included in the CBD on Cottage Park Road said she was unaware that this had taken place. If indeed the owners of all the residences now in the CBD were treated in a similar manner, all a concerned resident can surmise is that this is unconscionable, a really truly unconscionable act on the part of the elected officials of Winthrop to create a center environment for the benefit of developers or whoever, but certainly not for the residents of the center area. Now the developers can build to the maximum height of 4 stories by eliminating the buffer height of 2.5 stories. What this means to me in sequence of events is a future of residential disruption. It will start with the infrastructure first, which will go on for a very long time. Then demolition, and all the environmental concerns related to very old buildings, along with demolition vehicles and demolition workers' traffic and parking issues, as well as noise, dust, toxins being released. Next will be a year or 2 of construction, with again, the construction of vehicles and construction workers' traffic and parking issues, as well as noise, dust, and toxins. And this will be repeated year after year, because Pandora's box for developers and venture capitalists has been opened. All of this disruption will be so Winthrop can have 20, 40, 100 condominiums or rental apartments with many new residents and their 1 and more likely 2 cars that will be parked on the street. This will happen because the zoning changes reducing on-site parking to .75 per unit were put in place in 2014. This will effectively reduce business parking and create a significant parking problem for long-time residents. Winthrop is a highly density town, already even as far back as 2005, when an EPA study reported that with the addition of some 83 units and 193 residents, more units, Winthrop would be built out. That was 12 years ago. All you have to do to see this is simply continue to work and go by daily at the bridge where thousands of cars, thousands, I think we have 12,000 in town, around 7 to 8:30 a.m., how bad it is to leave Winthrop in the morning. Not to mention the impact on snow, emergency, parking, or hopefully never, but a town-wide evacuation will require. We all need to reconsider what we are trying to do here. Are we on the path to make Winthrop Center residential, allowing CBD property owners and developers to make a big financial plan and gain? Or do we want to come up with a plan to make it a vibrant shopping and eating destination for residents and hopefully visitors? We cannot make a deep dive into residential and expect shops and restaurants to just happen. The CBD needs to be reevaluated because it appears to be all about developers building residential units to the detriment of businesses and residents, with the resulting of increased parking demand and more traffic. I want to first say that everybody up there, the councilors, you have our trust. You've been here so long. I want to wind this up by saying, in the famous Christmas movie, It Is a Wonderful Life by George Bailey, he realized how many lives he has changed and impacted and how they would be different if he was never there. You as councilors and elected officials have the same life-changing impact potential. So this Christmas season, every time you hear the Christmas bells, you ready to hear the bells? It's an angel.
Christmas season, when you're walking, think of your neighbor, your constituents, your residents, your friends, and their quality of life. It's a wonderful life in Winthrop. Thank you.
Anybody else who hasn't been heard? If not, Mr. Riley is ready. We'll finish off with Mr. Riley, if that's okay.
Change the subject.
Oh.
What occurred to me when we were hearing from the assessors and they talked about the state of the, and again, when the, those motions were being made and Nick has talked about the free cash and what we do. Free cash, again, is like Nick said, is the worst number in the world. It's not free and it's not cash. Other than that, the description is accurate. But it's the balance. It's what's left over at the end of the year. It's unexpended funds. Somebody leaves mid-year from a position. There's some salary left over. There's a variety of different things that create the free cash. But, and he talked about how in 2005 real estate values plummeted. But for the town, a lot of other things, every revenue source that we had plummeted. And we're now at a point where we do have some money to make a decision about. But over the years, as we've increased it, this council, the town managers, have adopted some prudent practices. We heard some of them tonight about where we transfer the money and how we keep it and so forth, to steady the ship and keep going and stuff. It's one thing to, while the thing is improving, but without being, it improved and it got better. We have some money. I think one year we had a negative free cash value. Things have improved greatly, but the town is in a better position, not only because of these factors that you don't have any control over, but because of the prudent practices that this council has adopted and kept and has had the wherewithal and the intelligence to keep in place. And we think we're in a much better spot than we've been. It's nice to hear that we've made that kind of an improvement.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. If nothing else, we're going to move from public comment. Anything else for public comment? If not, I thank you for all your comments. Thank you. Yeah, we can take a 3-minute recess, if that's okay. Anybody would like to stay? A 5-minute recess? Yeah. 5 minutes.
Run upstairs.
Okay. Next on our agenda is correspondence. We did, or I did, and I'm sure everyone else received some correspondence from some of the school committee candidates. It's my intention to get to them before our next meeting. However, I'm going to hold an hour's worth of council meeting here at Town Council Chambers on Saturday, if I can get in, and I believe I can, between 10 and 11 for any of the school committee who would like to talk personally face-to-face. If not, we will talk via phone. Any of the other councilors who'd like to join in, feel free to, if we can accommodate that time, between 10 and 11 on Saturday. And again, if I don't have the chance to talk to folks, I will do so by phone.
Do we just want to post that as a meeting in case more than the majority show?
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay.
And,
I'll send it out to the candidates too?
Please,
Do you
yeah.
want? It's okay.
Okay, and if it goes longer, that's
Council
fine.
President?
That's fine.
Yes.
Why not just have it right here in the Harvey Room?
I was just going to suggest the same thing because it'd be easier for us to get.
Okay.
I asked to unlock this door and make this easy.
Okay, why don't we do that? Thank you, Councilor. So we post it for
The only
this.
thing I can ask
Well,
about the
our badges-
posting,
Yeah, hold on.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but you don't have to keep getting.
Can
up
you
to-
somehow
we
state,
get-
is it informal or is the agenda is?
It's a-
Because there'll be no attendance, no minutes or anything like that taken.
Post it as a workshop.
Okay, I mean, just make sure
Something
it's
like that, so
this
that-
way.
yeah,
so that-
Council,
but we're going to
absolutely.
have more than a quorum, or you could potentially have more than a
Yeah, you
quorum.
could
We should
potentially, but
definitely
I
have.
said there's not gonna be, people aren't gonna be taking minutes about it or.
Deal with them all in 1 hour. With
Well,
all people.
if it goes a little longer than an hour, that's fine. Okay?
I just want to.
Yeah, Council.
To the council president, if I can, by giving out my number and my information at the last meeting, I've gotten calls from all of them.
I have,
And
yeah.
I have talked to at least 4 of them already, and I've interviewed them for at least an hour just
Yeah.
by myself on each of them.
Yeah.
So if anybody wanted to do that rather than come here for that hour,
Yeah,
You know,
whatever works.
it
I
works.
just want to make sure we accommodate ourselves. And we have some very strong candidates, which I'm very happy about, so. Okay, next, so that's regarding correspondence. Committee reports. Finance Committee?
Mr. President, the Finance Committee met earlier today, and we're going to do a quick report, and that is, we had myself, Council Lettieri and Boyajin present, Town Manager Delahanty and Mike Perez were present, as well as Councilor Christopher and Boncory, and Councilor Sanford showed up also. There were 3 items on the agenda. There were the free cash transfers from stabilization. There was a $498,000, $498,101.20 for free cash to capital stabilization. There's a transfer from $373,575.90 from free cash to general stabilization, and transfer of $99,137.15 from free cash to building stabilization. And that's in accordance with the policy, the savings policy we set up for free cash of 40%, 30%, 10%, and the balance going to annual capital expenses. It was all 3 moved forward on the recommendation of Council Lettieri, seconded by Council Boyajin, for positive action for the transfer tonight. And that's the report.
Thank you, Counselor. Town Manager's report?
Thank you. Hope everyone is well. The dog park update, we're still waiting to hear from DCR on the report that we submitted on them. The ferry is officially out of service as of November 30th, so they'll be sending the boat up for repair and service and maintenance, routine maintenance that we have done at the end of every year, and getting ready for the next year, which will begin a little bit earlier in March. So we'll be working towards those goals. The police department has the annual toy drive going on. For any children in Winthrop that needs toys, the parents can reach out to the police department directly, and we'll certainly help get them what they need. We also cooperate with the school system to find out what families in Winthrop may need some toys, to get those delivered to the appropriate schools. In the past, Andrew Biggio has always been a strong supporter of this toy drive, and certainly this year I'm sure he'll come through for us as well. Getting a lot of toys to us. We met yesterday with Harvard University to kick off our new semester, and receiving some help from their innovation lab, and how do we move forward with them, and what our priorities will be for the spring. So we're still going to be working on City Nexus and problem properties, and how do we expand that out, and also what other projects they may be able to help us. It's been a great asset to us in the past years, and we look forward to working with them moving forward. So, last year the DPW was budgeted originally 2 trucks. Both those trucks were removed from the budget. They're still in need of trucks. I met with during the budget meetings last week and the week before. It was an identified need for Mr. Caller. I think it's really important. There's 8 to 10 weeks lead time to get a truck, and I think we really need to look at the budget this year and see where we can find them at least 1 truck for this year, and next year moving forward put another truck back in its budget. Some budgets were back down to the reallocation of money to other departments, more increase for the schools, took away some of the capital projects that we had in the budget. So we'll be coming forward with a recommendation after meeting with the CFO on how we may be able to fund at least 1 truck this year, and then next year, moving forward, put another one in his budget to make him continue to improve his vehicles down there. The harbor master, myself, and Chief Flanagan met about replacing the harbor master's Parker boat. The Parker is just not strong enough to continue to make it around outside the harbor. Deer Island Light over to Shore Drive. He was looking for a new boat that is more powerful and has more protection for the harbor master crew. He has identified that boat down in Cape Cod area, and certainly is looking at that. Chief Flanagan, through his influence with UASI, is potentially going to secure a grant for about $50,000, $10,000 he'll need just for his own staff with manning his own boat, and then $40,000 will be allocated to the new boat, the harbor master, leaving about a $45,000 outlay out of his budget until we surplus the Parker and sell the Parker and then replenish his enterprise accounts with that. So we're looking at an even trade-off after selling the Parker and with the grant money that Chief can secure for him, that the accounts will remain stable and even. It's just, in the meantime, it's just going to take a little time to move things around to make it work.
And there was some concern, I spoke to the harbor master, they got called out for a rescue. When they made the loop, they were concerned that they were gonna need to be rescued also,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
When you get some bad weather out there,
And this new boat will be similar to the fire boat. It's a safe boat, and
Right.
it'll be more easier for them to operate in.
okay, great, thanks.
The police department will be escorting oil trucks into MWRA. This is going to go on for the next week. They have bringing oil trucks in to beef up their supply of oil. Happens about 3-4 times a year. This is routine. I just want to make sure you're aware of it. I have submitted tonight to the council my Center Business District landscape design recommendations, and I also submitted a design feedback report of all the emails that we received in the town manager's office, and try to break them out for you to make it easier to read. I certainly can't take any credit besides an editor on that document. My intern was great, formatted and compiled that. We do have all the emails that back everything up if anyone wants to see those emails. We just didn't want to put them out there in a public forum.
Right.
Joe, we have extra copies here if people in the audience would like to see that. I'd certainly be happy to go through it now with the council if they choose. It certainly mirrors option 1 of the landscape design. The 3 schemes that we were presented and we saw. Sure. It mirrors that option 1 design. Certainly after the feedback and reading all the feedback and going over it with Director Calla, Joe D, and my intern, developing the feedback in this report, it was a glaring, and listening to people at the last meeting, Center Business Design meeting, listening to them, it was glaring to me that the bump outs were not heavily favored. The scheme 1 appeared to be the heavy favor from people, and certainly the bump outs, after talking with Steve Calla, certainly makes it more difficult for him to maintain and plow the center area. So we did take those inputs into consideration by these recommendations. We did really were impressed with the narrowing the entrance at the center. We feel that by doing that, it'll slow traffic on Pauline Street, but also I remember the days when I was pushing a carriage and I had to make it from point A to point B to get across that street, and you have traffic coming from both angles, right and the left, and you're trying to, so by narrowing that, it makes it a safer crosswalk. I think the line of sight of traffic you don't have to be as concerned with. We are checking 2 to 3 times the existing condition, and we also really liked the design here that kind of helps improve the visual aspect of the entrance of the center. And we thought the landscape designer did a great job in that respect. We also really liked Council Inman's recommendations about the parking lot and putting a sidewalk on the edge of that parking lot over by Citizens Bank. We really think it makes that whole area a lot safer. It also allows a connectivity to Walden Street and Pauline Street. We know we have more work to do there, but I think this begins that work, and as we get this project underway, and we look at complete streets when we get some of that funding, and we see what else we can do to connect that Walden Street visually as well as safely crossing and navigating those areas. So, we're not done. This is just the beginning. And we might have to lay 2 of the 3 projects on this to get a complete flow that we actually want. We did recommend that Jefferson Street by Cafe Delight remain as an outlet of the center.
Right.
It was heavily debated in our inner office of whether it should be an inlet or an outlet. Having an inlet certainly didn't add anything because the side of Samuel's would be closed. So if I needed to get to the parking lot, I could access that by Putnam. If I wanted to cut through and park on Hagman, I could cut through that parking lot and park on Hagman.
Right.
So the benefit of having it as an outlet has certainly outweighed having an inlet, and we do pick up 2 parking spots. So it's an offset. If you lose 2, you're picking up 2. We're trying to really examine what the offset is and how can we get as close to what the existing conditions are. We heard that concern for parking, whether it's real or perceived, is irrelevant. What we did is we heard their concerns and we want to address those concerns. And we want to be thoughtful of those concerns and the time that they took out of their busy day and to meet with us multiple times, not just once. And email me their concerns, not just once, but multiple times. So we certainly we wanted to go away with everyone feeling that they were heard, that the recommendation is their voice, not so much my voice. And the left-hand turn at the end of Woodside, we thought was a great addition. It didn't add that much traffic to Bartlett during the traffic study. It added about 300 cars to Bartlett Road. That was, if you look after the study to during the study, it's about 300 car difference. But it's certainly a good mechanism for people who don't want to go through the center to Pauline Street, that they want to just exit out of the center, that they can. So those are simply the recommendations. I'd be happy to answer any questions. The 2 schemes that were redesigned by the architect to mirror some of the recommendations that we made are attached as L1 and L2.
L1's up here now.
Yeah.
I can open L2 if you like.
By suggesting removing the rear bump out of Samuel's there, after talking to some people who were a lot smarter than me, we didn't gain anything visually. And if you're looking at paths and walkways and the books that they've recommended I read and were willing to give me, you're not looking at our open space. We're not looking at the pinnacle point of the center, which now is French Square and will continue to be French Square. They said if we're going to have any bump, it should be on the opposite side, where people could look in a direction to the pinnacle point of the center and see it from different angles, and that's how I get there. With the input of losing more spaces of parking, we took that into consideration, and we thought it was, I think this is a great compromise to what we're trying to do to the Center Business District people's concerns, and the input that they gave us over time.
Was the option of a...
Go on, yes.
We're looking at a couple different options. Was the option ever discussed to leave it the way it is? Given the option for people to...
I don't, certainly, there's always an option. It's certainly not my recommendation. So I put my recommendations on. My job is to propose and council disposes. So certainly, these are just my thoughts from listening to everyone, knowing that we did want to make the space a little bit better, a little bit bigger, and a little bit better, so we can do different things. And how do we do that without offending and causing more problems than it's worth for the Center Business District? So that was more the weighing in my office, in my head, and I think with my staff. We thought it was certainly a good idea to expand French Square. To what level? I think you gain a lot of space. You gain significant space just by taking this plan.
Right.
French Square expands a little bit this way, and certainly expands this way. If we look at movable furniture versus stationary furniture, you can really design it to any event you want. If you have movable furniture, which Steve Cal is against, I can put it right out there. Because then it's up all over the place. But if you had anchors, and you could just unscrew the anchors and move it, so you could have a band down there if you wanted on one night, or you could have,
Movies,
whatever you wanted to have. Make it adjustable, and it's a lot more flexible, and certainly Mr. E, who was here earlier tonight, certainly suggested that to me, and has been a great guide on design and input from his experiences on how to move things around to make a lot more space in a little area.
And again, I think we had a good attendance at the planning meetings with the architects.
Yeah, I just want to, we did send out, several surveys.
Yeah.
It's in the traffic study, not so much in this recommendation, but in this traffic study. We did, this is a jump ball here. Statistically speaking, we sent it out to 3,000 people. I think we got just about 792 responses, which puts us, pretty much in the 20 percentile, which usually surveys run about 5%. So certainly it's an impressive feed. We did send it to the Center Business District list first, and we saw actually like a little bump in the yeas and a little less in the nays. When we sent it out to the whole community, we saw that reversed a little bit. So we had, I think it was like 6 votes less on the nays to yeas to change it. So statistically speaking, this is a 50-50 right down the middle on how people want to see change and what they want to see changed.
Councilman.
And do we have I don't want to talk about parking again, but do we have a count as to net spaces lost on the street or gained? I mean, I know we gained 2 with the one-way bike.
Yeah, but you lose 3 in Samuel, so you gain 2, and we're going to lose about 3 by redesigning that parking lot. We're looking at whether or not we can gain on-street parking by that curb line. The landscape designer thinks we can't. I asked the engineers to measure that spot to see whether we lose, we can put on the street, right on the curb line. So we're still looking at that, but from where we came from, losing 3 to 4 spots, I think is a great spot to be in. I'm trying to lose no spots by being creative and see where else we can allocate those spots. But I think, coming from where I think the suggestions were 38 spots, depending on how you count them and who counted them, to 54 spots, to coming down to 3 or 4 spots. Again, it shows that we listen to the people, it shows that we engage the people, and it shows that we're trying to work with the people and the businesses.
And we want to create a little bit of a destination in the center with the green space and functionality and families, and hopefully people coming down, buying products and spending some time down there too, without sacrificing too much on the parking aspect, which we know is important.
It's a very, very hot issue and an important issue, and I can't emphasize that this is an infrastructure project, and it shouldn't be confused with a development project. These are 2 different animals in of itself. Here I'm worried about infrastructure, which means water, sewer, and drainage, and how we store water and how we increase the storage of water in the center area. It would be foolish if we did these infrastructure projects and didn't say, let's build it big enough for the next 50 years. Because we only want to go in once. We don't want to go in 10 years and say, oh, we undershot it. But this is certainly an infrastructure project that will help everyone, resident or business, in the business district. It'll help us save water and clean out those pipes that are leaking that we put on this tax payer. So with this infrastructure project, I want to make sure everyone understands as an infrastructure project. It's not a backdoor to a development project. That's a whole other issue that we'll examine with the planners and move the neighborhood with the developers together and see if we can gain common ground there. But without this, I got to get this project started before I can move on to help them with how the development should look.
And again, that has to be clarified, and you did a good job. This is about looking at the design so we can move forward on the infrastructure. Very simple. It has nothing to do with the density or the development. We need to get this infrastructure in place and hire proper folks that do
Yeah,
that
I think
work.
it's a good deposit on trust.
Mhm. Right,
That
yeah,
people
I agree.
know that we listen to them and that we adjusted our plan based on their
Mhm.
input and that we want to work with them.
Right. Counselor?
What's this sense of urgency, I guess? How quickly do we need to act on this, or do we get delayed or any problems with it?
We
If I
should,
keep going through, yeah, town manager.
We should have acted on this in October.
Yeah, absolutely.
We should have had this under construction, you know, people, communication was in question, we wanted to slow it down, we wanted to certainly meet with them, and we wanted to have their input. So I'm not saying that this was an unworthy delay, but it certainly was a worthy delay.
Mhm.
To get it right is important, but we certainly don't want to go into the new year right now. We'd like to get this bid out. Contractors that are the good contractors are already scheduling their spring work.
Right.
So we don't want to be boxed out.
Yeah. Anything from DBW you want to add to that?
Oh, I mean, Terry hit it on the head. I mean, once we make a decision on this hardscape, we've got at least another month, month and a half of finalization to drawings and creation of a bid spec. If we vote on this now, we can potentially get it in the central register in March, and, you know, the bid process takes about a month, so, you know, we're still looking at about an April or a May award. That's still pushing the envelope, like Terry mentioned, to get the contractors that are capable of doing this scale of a project, so.
Yeah. So
It
there's-
is, we are at the point that the decision needs to be made, or it needs to be made that, you know, we talked about putting this thing off.
Yeah, and we have some money we need to spend from the state. that
Yes.
It's not helping our credibility as far as making decisions for our town.
Putting it off would mean to reject the grant.
Right. So, Councilor Ringman.
Sure, I have
Yeah.
a couple of questions. If you could speak a little bit about, a little more about your recommendation to remove the bump out on Hagman.
Yeah.
I really like the wide sidewalks, and it's not that big of an area with a wide sidewalk, and I hate to see that fall off.
By having a bump out there, first of all, we are putting a bump out that looks at a door and the backside of a building, visually.
Yeah.
So we gain nothing from having a bump out there. No one's gonna wanna sit there or stand there and talk and look over the new design Front Square. It was suggested that if we're gonna put a bump out, put it across the street where the Butler Properties entrance is, so people see the center and know the pathways. Pathways are about connectivity and what you can visually see, and how do I get from A to Z. Some of the greatest pathways are in Boston Common, that you can visually see where you're going. And you see, I want to get over there, that's how I get there. Putting a bump in the back of Samuel's didn't provide that. It provided this, but did not provide this. So it was recommended, the people that came to me and suggested that I look at this book and also talk to them, and I looked at it, and it really does gain nothing there. It would gain more by being across the street, but then again, that would eliminate parking, and we were trying to minimize the elimination of as much parking as possible.
Okay. So then my next comment then would be on the sort of the redesign that we got where there isn't a bump out. There's one space on the very end next to the French Square that looks like a carve out for a parking space in the middle of the public space.
Right.
Do you want me to show you?
Yeah, could you point that out?
Yeah.
Want me to go to
Do you know what I'm
the-
talking
the-
about?
right here?
Yeah.
I can go
On
to
the backside, going into Samuel's?
Yeah,
Right.
I showed Joe earlier, so maybe he can,
Where that back door
Yep.
might be. or right-
Talking about this spot right here.
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
If we could, because that, I think that could be meaningful public space right there. And if we are keeping all of the other parking spaces.
Yeah, I believe, and I'll have to go back to the architect on that, Counselor, I believe we were trying to bring it back in to match the curb line there, since it was gonna be a little bit wider to come to where those parking spots are originally. So this design here would originally just ran here.
Right.
Because without the house, so we had to make this kind of come back into the existing curb line. So if you were suggesting that we take this one spot, you know, we'll have to carve it in like that.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was thinking. It just seems like it's an awkward
Mr.
So
President?
we're just trying to bring it back into the current
Yeah.
line.
Anything else?
I've got a list of questions,
Okay.
but
Okay, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, continue.
You know, I was gonna answer that one there, to help out, from having built many of these. One of the things that happens when it's the left side of on a one-way street, is you need to lose several feet on that side to get a plow in there, but you can't make the swing on that left side. Usually you would be coming up the street plowing, and you can come out. This one here, you're gonna have to be coming around, and to swing a plow into, there's a dead space in there that's gonna get created. So the further you move that corner out, the further you move that dead space out, and you'll end up moving it into a parking space. So you need a little extra slack in there to get your snow removal done.
I would still be in favor of broadening the public space right in that particular area. And then I wanted to make sure that it's hard to tell on these maps, and I'm sure that was done for scale, that the decorative features with the sidewalk and the lighting go down Woodside in front of La Siesta.
Yeah, I walked that. There is decorative lighting currently existing.
Right.
I did go to La Siestas last weekend, and I made sure I paid attention to that. So those will be replaced with decorative lighting.
Okay.
Okay? They'll be upgraded.
Right.
Okay. And then what's the recommendation on the corner in front of CVS? The landscape architect had a couple of ideas. One was a seating wall and one was a bench.
We did like the seating wall.
You did?
We did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that the seating wall was great.
Yeah, we went back and forth on that, and there was two issues, and we thought the seating wall helped bring everything together in a more beautiful way than the bench alone would have done.
Yeah. And then I assume we're going to make decisions on the materials at a later date.
What I think we'd like to accomplish tonight is
The layout.
yeah.
I
And
think-
as far as the
Right.
materials, I think that'll happen at a later date.
I just want to
Again,
confirm that's
yeah,
at a later
that's-
date and
yeah,
not
I
tonight.
believe so.
May-
Yeah.
So if I can offer, the
Yeah.
landscape architect still has room in contract to work with us as far as selection of materials, selection of even greenery. One of the comments that isn't reflected here, but that was brought up by Mr. Costantino, I believe, was the potential introduction of what's known as a green wall in the park area. And so where you see the two trees right by the Samuels building, that might be converted to be a green wall that would be a structure that you would grow plants on.
Right.
And therefore, if the building just stays there, it could be screened.
Right.
And if the building becomes something else, you could remove the green wall without having
It
all the
softens
work
that-
of removing the
softens that
training
whole
center.
space,
So it
yeah.
softens that look of the harsh building
Right.
there unless something happens there that you want to look at.
Right.
And then that's something that would be, again, added or discussed during the final phases. Right now, we just need to figure out where's the space they're working in, and that's stuff that the landscape architect will do with us in a public way later on.
And the granite wall was a big positive reaction by the community as well, inside the French Square area. So
Great.
as we move forward, we'll be cautious of those considerations as well.
Okay, good.
Council?
And then several months ago, someone had mentioned that the sidewalks on Bartlett Road were going to be, the road was going to be wider than it currently is, and the sidewalks were going to be more narrow. Somebody mentioned that several months ago, and then,
We actually, it was an initial recommendation on both Bartlett and that section of Somerset. That has been removed from the project. The width of those roads will remain the same.
okay, so the sidewalks will be as wide as they can possibly be? Okay.
Without losing any parking on the other side.
Without losing the parking,
Which is,
right.
again, something we're paying attention to. Council,
I think that's all I have.
you sure? I know she's
More things will come up.
been involved with it right from the day one, so thank you, Council, appreciate that. Anything else from the council? Mr. President? Yes.
I think with the removal of the bump outs, I think we're pretty good. And when people start talking about losing spaces or whatever, we have to remember, a lot of the spaces that are there aren't legal spaces. When who's ever drawing these plans stamps them, they have to draw things legal with setbacks from crosswalks, from fire hydrants, from corners. So inherently, you are going to lose space when you start bringing everything up to code. Because what we have now currently doesn't meet code, or we're using a lot of areas that aren't legitimate parking spaces, and calling them parking. So what you see here, I'm not sure if the final plan includes painting the parking stalls in or not, which
It does.
sometimes it does, and it helps, sometimes it doesn't, depending on the size of the cars. As well as the handicap spots moving around to be where they need to be for ADA compliant ramps and sidewalk access. I think they did a pretty good job. One thing, I know a lot of people, I insult every landscape architect I work with when I say this. Trees, tables, lights, well, not lights, but whatever, finial you're gonna use on them. That's decorated. We need to get the hardcore work underground done here. The drainage, I mean, we've had drainage issues in that center for forever. There's major sewer issues, sanitary sewer issues in that area, as well as the water mains being as old as any in town. So the infrastructure work is absolutely critical, and I think we really, really need to move on that to get this going. And again, like I said, I insult every landscape architect I work with. Whether it's, what the trees can be chosen later, whether it's trees, bushes, flowers, or whatever type of fixtures we end up using. Those can be either options of the bid, they could be, different pricing on different items, we can choose them at the, leave a budget to do it, but it's absolutely critical we get rolling on this infrastructure work, because if we miss the spring window, we're looking at potentially another year, and you really want to get this thing, the infrastructure, if possible, done in one construction season next year. If it goes too long, you're going to go into a second construction season to finish in the spring of 2019, and I don't think anybody would want to go through that havoc of a winter not having it completed.
Council.
I just wanted to ask, this doesn't preclude us from entering into public-private partnerships for parking like they discussed, so there's potentially more to gain as well.
Yes, I mean, we'd encourage the business owners to talk to the other business owners and come up with those agreements.
Anything, Councilor Terry?
Looking at this at the bottom of Woodside and Bartlett, that seems to be protruding out more, because I know when they did the test pilot, they kind of made that, they kind of squared that off a little bit.
That's actually roadway, that blue
Underneath the trees.
area is actually, they wanted, it's still roadway, but the architect thought a granite,
Cobblestone.
surface, would just kind of give it more aesthetics. Vehicles will still drive over that blue area. It's not an island.
Okay.
It's not gonna be elevated, it's still gonna be level with the roadway.
Color.
It's just a different treatment on that corner to make it stand
What's
out
the
as.
maintenance like for DPW for something like that?
We'll still
Snow
plow right
storage.
over it.
Okay.
Snow storage.
Mr. President?
Yes, Councilman.
And I'm going to give some examples of things that have happened. I don't know if anybody's been to Assembly Row in front of Legal Seafood, there's that rotary. I put that in, it's a nightmare. You'll notice how there's brick in there in the middle. You can drive over that. If a truck's coming through, a fire truck comes through, they're going over that. They can't make the turn. So you use these types of visuals to guide people, but when the need is there, you can drive over them. So it's just a visual, and it makes it a lot more aesthetic than just seeing pavement out there.
Good point. Thank you, Council. Anything else from the Council? Yeah, Councilor Terry.
And again, I'm sure whenever this is passed or not passed or whatever, we could talk about if it's bricks or whatever, the crosswalks are, the trees or whatever, it's more about. A concern I have, which is, I guess, a byproduct of this, if we do this tonight, we're going forward with everything else, is there, what kind of thought process is being put into the businesses in the center for the infrastructure project that has to be done? In terms of, are we gonna ask for a 4-day work week so the center could have 1 day of business? Are we gonna ask, how is that gonna be done, and what kind of guidelines can we put in an RFP for that? And has that been discussed? Night work potentially, day work potentially,
Yeah.
cost differences?
Yes, it has been discussed. And certainly, we have to do this a street by street basis. to make as much access as possible. We also have to listen to the engineers and tell us what makes sense. Some of this is gravity-fed systems, and where do we start and where we end up is going to be driven a lot by the engineers. But we also want to make sure access is maintained at all times. So you might see, similar activity where we make Hagman Road a one-way coming in for us if we have to work on Woodside Ave and bring the traffic down Somerset and Cottage. So we certainly need to get the contractor on board, and certainly night work will double our costs, if not significantly higher than double that cost that I did ask Steve Caller about, and he did go back and talk to them. So night work is difficult. It's certainly, I think it's still being debated whether or not we complete one street and move to the next, or how do we want to move that project through, but it's certainly going to matter to have the contractor on board during those conversations. So our commitment is to work with the businesses to make sure that minimize the effect that they're going to see and have, just like we did up in Crest Ave. We certainly, we made an additional parking spot up there while we took away all the parking on the street. We put police officers on the street to make sure that people got across the street, to feed all those businesses during construction. That was a 2-year project up there as well. So you'll see similar efforts, and probably more efforts in the center area than you saw up at Crest Ave.
Anything else from the council? Town manager, this is something, again, we've been discussing for a while. We've had plenty of input. I think it's imperative that we try to move this, and I want to be clear. It has nothing to do with parking directly, taking away spaces, has nothing to do with developing. But development, it has to do with the infrastructure, which is critical for us to go forward with.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I would entertain a motion from the council. I've had some discussions with each one of you along the lines, if not this today, but along this whole process. It is a timely consideration, and it is for infrastructure only. So I would entertain a motion from the council.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I would make a motion that the council adopt the town manager's presented center business district design with L1 and L2 configurations as presented on as dated December 4th, 2017.
The motion has been made. Do I have a second on the motion? Motion made and seconded by Council Vice President Boncory. Any discussion on the motion?
I'd like to offer an amendment to the, I'm not sure how to word this yet, but I think that one parking space, this sort of indentation into the green space, is a missed opportunity to have more space in the front square area. So, let's see, I guess my amendment would be to amend the town manager's recommendation to bring the curb line on the front square area over.
Further down Hagman Road.
Further down, just
by
to the,
one.
yes, just one parking space.
All right, there's an amendment to the original motion. Do I have a second on the amendment? If I see no second, the amendment does not pass. We'll go back to the original motion. Any more discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, please say, could we have if you don't mind, could we have a roll call vote? Yeah. Thank you.
Council Ingman.
Yes.
Council Cala. Council Christopher.
Yes.
Council Thierry.
No.
Council Boyajin.
Yes.
Council Barone.
Yes.
Council Del Vento.
Yes.
Vice President Boncory.
Yes.
President Sanford.
Yes.
Passes.
My motion passes. Thank you. And again, just to put everybody at ease, this has nothing to do with the parking development going forward. It has to do with the design, which will be discussed on going forward, and it has to do mostly and obviously with the infrastructure, which is most important. Thanks. Frank, if you don't mind waiting public comment? Thank you.
Just continuing on in my report, we received complaints on the circulars being thrown all over the sidewalks. Al Legee will be talking to the circular company in that regard of where they're placing these circulars. Resident parking stickers are available. There is no charge if you apply online. If you come into the treasurer's office, there is a $5 fee. There was a press release by the town clerk's office statement regarding the recount. It's posted up on our website and Facebook pages. The Shore Drive water main break, Steve Callan and his crew was up there with the contractors for DCR, and that was an unidentified connection pipe that was ripped off, so it wasn't certainly not the contractor's fault up there. So we worked with them and got that quickly repaired, and we went back in service within 4 hours. So they did a very nice job up there.
DPW, appreciate that.
The MMA annual meeting and trade show is January 19th and 20th. I believe everyone got their magazine. If the councils want to go to that, now is a great time to sign up for it. Package thefts, we have seen several package thefts in town, so please make sure you take your packages in as quickly as possible, have an enclosed area to have them delivered to, or have a neighbor bring them in for you. That's just going across the country, but we've seen 2 or 3 incidents here in Winthrop over the past 48 hours. So,
In certain area?
you know, I'll get those areas out to the council. The deputy chief just emailed me prior to this meeting, so I'll get those areas. But you know, you could follow the FedEx truck around, all around Winthrop, delivering this time of year. So I think it's going to be widespread. The CFO next meeting has asked for some time to deliver a presentation on software upgrades to the enterprise, meaning the entire town, and how we want to upgrade the software to improve efficiencies in his finance office, as well as this will allow us to bring e-permitting online for the building department and computerize the building, fully computerize the building department, as well as get all of our computers in one software suite. We've went away from that back in the 2008, 2007 area, and went with SoftWrite, which is not delivering the needs. So if you don't mind, next meeting. And I will conclude my report for tonight.
Thank you. Councilor Terry?
I guess I'll bring this up now, and
Yep.
maybe should have brought it up during correspondence, but with the town manager's report.
Oh.
There was a letter from
Gotcha.
Karen Chavez, who is a member of the Citizens Finance Group, and she did make mention of the fact that the Finance Commission, which the Council Subcommittee on Finance is part of, also had made recommendations that the council seriously look into a complete review of the ferry before the end of the year, because there's financial implications as to whether we continue the service or not continue the service, and I don't know if we've really done that, and I would like to put that out there to see if anybody has responded to Karen or the Finance Commission.
I certainly have not. I did publish a report that's on the website. Karen acknowledged that she did read that report. You know, we right now certainly working with several different options for next year that would increase the revenue to that vessel significantly. We have not signed the contracts with those other agencies, so I really don't want to go into it in public session. As negotiations still go back and forth, so you know, my goal is to bring that vessel into the black this year. Certainly, I'm not sure if that's going to be able to be done without the $100,000 commitment of the council. And then if we get down to budget season, you know, it has to be cuts. Where do we cut is going to be the question. So certainly, these are policy decisions for the council. You know, I really do feel that this year, if we do sign on to a particular vendor, we're going to commit 3 pickups in the morning, 3 pickups in the afternoon for a substantial amount of money that would help us bring this vessel into the black.
Okay. And again, those
And I'll be happy
negotiations
if,
are...
I'm sorry, I'll
Yeah.
be happy to have those discussions with the Citizen Finance Committee in a group level or a one-on-one level.
Okay. Thank you. Council Vice President?
Yeah, just wanted to hear about what's going on with the break up at the entrance to Golden Drive.
That's what, yeah. It's part of our, is it contract 5, Steve?
Contract 5, so that was a tie-in to the Hutchinson part of contract 5. There's a lot of utilities in the way there, duct banks, gas, electric, Comcast, as well as our utilities. So it was a difficult tie-in. It was completed today. Tomorrow the road will be paved and we'll be off of Revere Street until the spring when it gets the final treatment.
Excellent. And thank you for starting the job on Ural Beach and getting that sand away and starting a buffer again to protect those houses.
We'll continue to do that. It usually takes about a month to get that berm in place. It's quite a job.
So we need to get rid of it.
And just to be clear, that's end of day tomorrow. We'll be off Revere Street at the end of day tomorrow.
End of day tomorrow.
Anything else, Councilor Emmett?
Yes, I just had a question about the RFQ for the public safety building. I had reviewed a copy of that last week or the week before, and it looks like that is limited to a single combined police and fire station, and I'm concerned that we're artificially limiting our choices by going forward with a combined station rather than looking at perhaps a separate, and we absolutely need to move forward with a new fire station. I don't want anybody to misconstrue my comments, but I do think we need to have the flexibility to consider separate buildings if that's what's going to be most cost effective and make the most sense for the town. So I don't know what the process is with the RFQ.
We can amend the RFQ
I think
and
it's
put it back out.
We can amend the RFQ and extend the deadline. The deadline's already been extended once, we can do it again. It's not.
the other thing I noticed.
Just so it doesn't pigeonhole us, I think it's what you're.
Yeah, the other
trying
thing I
not to do.
noticed in the RFQ is that it precluded any renovation of the existing buildings. And I know it sounds like the fire station can't be renovated and still accommodate the fire equipment. I don't know if that's true for the police station also. But keeping all of the options on the table in the RFQ, I think would be wise.
And of course, we're trying to do this on a certain budget. So the more we add to it, we're going way outside our scope of budgets. But certainly I think having a multifaceted approach is appropriate. And to see if we can get them to do that. And we already know the fire departments, we've had 4 or 5 studies on that that tell us that we cannot rebuild them.
I know.
Those are
It
dead
sounds
in
like
the
there are
water.
lots.
So certainly, we'll work with Chief Flanagan and also maybe trying to make sure this fits within our budget so we're not dipping into our reserves so quickly after restoring them. Nick will be happy with.
Right, I know we're on a budget with this part of the process, but if it's, if keeping more options on the table is gonna save money.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I think,
don't know.
from my perspective on where we are on this stage was to look at how much space are we gonna need if we do an individual, how much space we're gonna need if we do joint, and then to identify that space. Trying to narrow that scope and so there's no drilling and testing and soil sampling. And, tell us what we need for space based on your calculations on police and fire or if we went jointly. And then, then we know where our spaces are in town. We can do a better job finding that space than a hired person could do. So we'll certainly talk to Chief Flanagan in the morning and the procurement officer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Counselor?
Just for public consumption, there are some spots around town where the contractors have paved asphalt. And if you could just comment as to when that will be, finished.
So the gas work on Pleasant Street, they've actually started this week, replacing road panels with Strength. There was some work done on Herman Street as well. A lot of those side streets in the center area and Woodside and Cottage Park, the agreement for them moving up the schedule, where that was part of the center project, they will remain asphalt until we restore them through the center project on Woodside, on Cottage Park and Somerset Road. Pleasant Street was out of the scope of our center project, so they own the replacement of those cement panels, which they will be completed.
I think they, look like most of them were done today.
Yeah, a lot of them were done today.
Lots
Yeah.
of it's in the road.
Yeah.
So,
And then the roadway on Pleasant Street will be milled and overlaid by National Grid, at least half of a lane width in the spring as well.
in the spring.
It
So,
goes through, asphalt typically needs to go through a freeze-thaw cycle for the settlement. It doesn't make sense to have them do it, they would do it now if I pushed it, but we'll get a much better product in the spring.
Too cold.
just to be clear on the concrete panels, when do you anticipate the ones that we're not doing, but National Grid is going to do? When would you anticipate them completing that?
They're gonna complete them
This week?
hopefully this week, if not go into next week. They won't be able to enforce that much later next week.
Thank you.
That's Pleasant, again.
Sure.
Mr. President. Council.
Could you provide an update, if any, on where we are with the Winthrop Foundation and the negotiation with Massport?
And I meant to get that out. I think some people on the council have asked for that document. I will get you that first thing in the morning. Joe, if you remind me. We are right now waiting for the lawyers to go back and forth on some language changes. We had some conversations on some language that might be more advantageous to the town, and they're adjusting that after my meeting that I reported at the last council meeting. So right now it's between the lawyers that we're trying to hash out some language issues. I would just say that these are ongoing negotiations, these are not public documents, and be happy to share them with the councilors. But not at this point with the public, because it could deteriorate the negotiations as we go forward.
Anything else for the town manager? That being said, we'll move on to school department update. I can't remember the date, but we did have a combined meeting with the school committee a week or so ago. And the purpose of the meeting was to fill a resignation of one of the school committee members. That was tabled until December 19th, which we will be meeting again, a combined meeting, and hopefully filling that vacancy. I think that was anything else, President-elect, while you're sitting back there quietly?
The only thing, we have entered into negotiations with the superintendent for a permanent position.
Okay, great. Here. Thank you. Next thing is old business. Town of Winthrop, I'll bring the motions forward. Town council motions that the town maintains a uniform tax rate for all classes of property for fiscal year 2018 and authorizes the town manager, Terrence Delahunty, to sign and electronically submit the LA-5 to the Department of Revenue. And it's regarding the uniform tax rate.
So moved.
Motion been made, seconded?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next thing under old business is motion. I move that the town council vote to transfer $498,101.20 from free cash to capital stabilization fund in accordance with the town council policy, or take any other action thereto.
Mr. President?
Yes.
That
comes
came from the
committee.
Finance Committee with the recommendation. Doesn't need a
Okay,
second.
does not need a second. All in favor?
We do need a majority vote, though.
A roll call? Okay.
Roll call.
Thank you. Yeah, Council?
Councilor Ingman?
Well, if you don't mind, just a second.
Just
Councilor Terry?
to refresh what Council DeVento had said in the policy that was instituted by
Yes.
the council several years ago, that we have 40% of the free cash allotted go into the capital stabilization fund, 30% go into general stabilization fund, and 10% go into building stabilization fund. And the building stabilization, we feel, is capped at $300,000. Once it hits 300, we don't put additional in.
Right.
Which leaves some money for the town to spend as needed for certain projects. So this year we had roughly $1.245 million, and hence these numbers. That's why they look kind of weird with 20 cents and this and that, but that's
Right.
because that's the policy enacted by the council.
Great, thanks for that clarification, Council. Second item is, I move that the town council,
We have roll call.
I'm sorry, I thought we did.
Roll call.
Until it's getting late.
Councilor Ingman?
Yes.
Councilor Calla? Councilor Christopher?
Yes.
Councilor Terry?
Yes.
Councilor Boyajin?
Yes.
Councilor Barone?
Yes.
Councilor Del Vento?
Yep.
Vice President Boncory?
Yes.
President Sanford?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Motion's passed and carried. Next is a motion. I move that the town council vote to transfer $373,575.90 from free cash to the general stabilization fund in accordance with the town council policy, or take any other action there. Two, again, that came from finance with a positive recommendation. Do we need a roll call on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Councilor Ingman?
Yes.
Councilor Calla? Councilor Christopher?
Yes.
Councilor Terry?
Yes.
Councilor Boyajin?
Yes.
Councilor Barone?
Yes.
Councilor Del Vento?
Yes.
Vice President Boncory?
Yes.
President Sanford?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is a motion, I move that the town council vote to transfer $99,137.15 from free cash to the building stabilization fund in accordance with the town council policy or take any other action thereto. Again, this comes with a positive recommendation from finance.
Mr. President?
Council?
This came from, with positive recommendation from finance, but I also want to say one thing that we don't talk about, although former Council President Riley did mention. By doing this and putting these savings accounts in play and utilizing the way we do, I don't know if you remember a few years ago, we were actually been able to bring our interest rate down on our financing of the high school. We've greatly increased that bond issue, and we're in the upper tier of percentage of communities that have a good solid cash reserve. I just hope in the future that this policy can be adhered to, because it's absolutely critical. I don't know if people can remember back 9-10 years ago, we had the Romney 9C cuts, and we lost about $900,000 over a weekend out of our town funds on state aid, and we ended up about $400,000 in the hole, and we had no reserves. This is something that I really stressed it, and I'm lecturing, but the future council does really take into consideration and maintain these levels of savings, which are absolutely critical. They put you in good bond rating. It saves you money on borrowing money, as well as if there is a disaster or something happens, we will have money available to handle it.
Great, thanks for that explanation, Council. And you're right, going back a few years, we were in dire straits at one point, and we've come out of that and worked hard to establish this fund, so thank you all for your contribution. Next is, that's why you're here.
Council Ringman?
Yes.
Council Callan? Council Christopher?
Yes.
Council Terry?
Yes.
Council Boyajin?
Yes.
Council Barone?
Yes.
Council Del Vento?
Yes.
Vice President Boncory?
Yes.
President Sanford?
Yes.
Council President?
Yes. Council?
Just one question. Can you say, what is the balance of the balance?
Capital
for
stabilization.
Building.
Roughly,
building stabilization.
Roughly $195,000.
Thank you.
Okay, next is the town council establish a public safety building committee, feasibility public safety building for feasibility for a public safety building complex. Councilor Calla was deeply involved with this. Obviously, she's had some surgery, is not here tonight, so I can establish that, I think, at our next meeting, if that's okay with the rest of the council.
Okay.
Okay. Under new business, transfer, okay, we have a motion. I move that the town council transfer from the general stabilization fund the amount of $190,000 to fully fund the regional dispatch budget through the end of the fiscal year 2018, or take any other action thereto.
Motion to refer to finance.
Motion's been made to refer to finance, and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, referred to finance.
Council Clerk?
Yes?
Can I ask the council clerk to advertise that, as well as schedule a 6:30 finance meeting before do we have school committee 6:30?
Yes, 6.
At 6, make that at 6 o'clock for finance committee?
I think we have a meeting at 6.
At 6?
Believe, is it not 6?
The joint meeting is
Joint
at
meetings at 6
Yeah.
o'clock.
6
So
o'clock.
12:19.
5:30?
All right, we'll work on
5:45?
5:45.
5:45.
If anybody has any questions, please email them to me.
Okay. Next, under new business is motion. I move that the town council vote to authorize unpaid bills of a prior year to be paid from the current year departmental budgets as noted below, or take any other action thereto. Everybody should have in their packet the information, funding source, and destination. So we need a motion.
Motion to refer.
Motion's been made to refer to finance.
Second that motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Appointments, I do have one appointment. That the town council accept the appointment made by Town Council President Sanford to appoint Irene Dwyer as a member of the Board of Appeals for the town of Winthrop, effective 12/31/17, for a term to last until June 30th of 2020, or take any other action thereto.
I move that the town council approve the appointment of Council President Sanford of Irene Dwyer to the Board of Appeals.
Motion been made and second.
Mr.
Any
President?
discussion? Yes.
Yeah, the only thing, and I'm not against the appointment, what I wonder is, did we properly post this? I know we're being sticklers with the school committee on it. Was the vacancy, was it posted for 14 days?
She's already a member on the
Yeah,
board.
she's an ex officio member.
She's
Or an
actually-
she's an associate member now.
Requesting right to be a full member.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because Brian is leaving.
Yeah, Brian, we're going to have two vacancies,
There'll still be
actually.
two vacancies.
Yes.
Okay.
There will be another vacancy coming forward.
Brian and Michael.
Right, Michael Powers. So anyone out there who's interested in becoming part of the Board of Appeals, please let Council Clerk know, or one of the council.
You're gonna have some free time.
Thanks. So we have a motion to accept that appointment of Irene Dwyer. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No, congratulations and thank you for serving. She's actually been on the board as an associate member since 2008. She's an attorney and been very helpful to the Board of Appeals, so look forward to her hard work continuing going forward. Public comment. Frank, I know you've been waiting patiently. Thank you.
I just wanted to bring to the council's attention in this forum a few things about French Square. One is that French Square is a dedicated space to First Navy casualty from World War II. I did notice the sign for French Square is being located here. But what's more important as part of the removal process or the transformation process of French Square is that there are a number of plaques that have been purchased from various donors, which include plaques in names of public officials embedded in various parts of French Square and also on the benches. And I think those deserve a place to be incorporated into the new design as possible. The other thing is that there was comment in the earlier review of the landscape plans for widening the sidewalk in front of our new building, and there is a couple of extra feet on the width of Hagman Road relative to Woodside Ave that I think could accommodate that increase in public walkway space. And I would certainly suggest that the landscape architects look at that. The other thing is that, a design like this is really only at maybe a developed schematic or even design development phase. So they still have to go through construction drawings and new refinements and alterations that certainly can take place within the scope of their contract. Hopefully they'll be flexible enough to be able to accommodate a comment like Heather's and maybe reevaluate that with removing some of the bump outs in here. The other thing that I strongly advocate for, but it's not shown on this plan, and I did mention it to Mr. Domalovitz, is the idea, because it is a dedicated space for a veteran, that we include a flagpole in the design, and certainly on the axis and the rather defined layout that she has here, that a flagpole on axis with Jefferson Street, and high enough so that the upper part of the center, in fact, from my building on Pauline Street, looking past and over Nick's building, if the flagpole is just a little bit higher than what's there right now, it can actually be seen from the upper center. So it's an orientation device, not only within the immediate zone of the French Square, but also the upper part of the center would be a very worthwhile visual device to add into the design. But otherwise, I think, moving forward, it's certainly going to be an improvement for all the things that have generated because French Square was transformed back 30 years ago, and this is really, the next step in this evolution. So I think it's going to be an asset for the town.
Thank you, Frank. Anything else from public comment? If not, public relations. Again, January 19th and 20th, we have the 2018 annual MMA convention. Councilors as well as town manager and other folks will be attending. Toys for Tots, Police Station, Town Hall, and/or the Assessor's Office, is that?
The assessors does one with the Marine Corps Toys and Tots, and the police department is more local.
Okay.
We try to keep those local.
So, and yeah, any donations would be well appreciated at the police station or at the Assessor's Office. Anything else from the council regarding public relations? If not, we'll
Motion to
entertain.
adjourn?
Hold on for me. We'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion? Do I have a second?
Please.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.